Princess Zara stood in the center of the great crystal chamber, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. The 7 elders sat on their floating thrones, their ancient faces showing no emotion as they stared down at her. Their skin glowed with the same blue light as hers, but theirs was bright and strong. Hers looked dull and weak in comparison. 25 cycles, Elder Morthok's voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. 25 cycles, and still no child grows within you. Zara tried to keep her chin up, but shame burned through her chest. Every other princess in their planet's history had given birth by her age. Some had multiple children by now. But her body remained empty, no matter what the healers tried. "We have performed every ritual known to our people," High Priestess Valana announced, her voice cold as space itself. "The ceremony of life seeds, the blessing of the Cosmic Mother, even the ancient rite of stellar awakening." She paused, letting her words sink in. Nothing has worked. From the corner of her eye, Zara saw her brother Kale trying not to smile. He sat with the other royal family members, his posture perfect, his expression properly serious. But she knew him too well. He was enjoying this moment. He had been waiting for it his whole life. Queen Leorile, Zara's mother, stepped forward. "My daughter is still young, perhaps with more time." "Time," Elder Draconis interrupted. "The laws of our ancestors are clear. A ruler must prove they can continue the royal bloodline. Without this ability, how can Princess Zara lead our people into the future?" Zara felt the weight of 1,000 years of tradition pressing down on her shoulders. Their planet, Vorthok, had been ruled by the same royal family for centuries. Every king and queen had children. It was not just expected, it was required. The ability to create new life showed that the royal blood was strong and blessed by the cosmic forces. "But I am your daughter," Zara whispered to her mother. "What? Doesn't that count for something?" Queen Leorile's eyes filled with pain. "My dear child, I would give anything to change this. But even I cannot go against the sacred laws." Elder Torvak, the oldest of the council, slowly stood up. His movements were careful and deliberate, like someone handling something very fragile. "Princess Zara," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Zara looked around the chamber. These walls had been her home since birth. She knew every crystal formation, every floating platform, every beam of light that danced through the transparent ceiling. This was supposed to be her kingdom one day. Tao. It felt like a beautiful prison. "I have tried everything," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I have followed every treatment, attended every ceremony, prayed to every star in our sky. I don't understand why my body won't respond." "Perhaps," Prince Kale said, standing up slowly, "the cosmic forces are trying to tell us something." Eyes turned to him. He was younger than Zara by 3 cycles, but he had already fathered 2 children with his wife. Maybe this is a sign that the throne should pass to someone who can actually fulfill the sacred duties. Queen Leorile shot her son a warning look, but the damage was done. Several elders nodded thoughtfully. The idea was already taking root in their minds. "That is not how succession works," the queen said firmly. "Zara is the eldest. The throne is hers by right of birth." "But what good is birthright without the ability to continue it?" Elder Morthok asked. "We cannot risk the future of our entire civilization on hope alone." Zara felt the room spinning around her. These people had known her since she was a tiny child. They had watched her grow up, seen her study harder than any other royal child in history. She spoke 12 languages, understood complex star navigation, and could negotiate trade agreements that benefited their entire planet. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was the one thing her body couldn't do. "There must be something," she said desperately. "Some mission, some task I can perform, to prove my worth to the kingdom?" The elders exchanged glances. Elder Torvak stroked his long beard thoughtfully. "There is one possibility," he said slowly, "though it would be extremely dangerous." "I'll do it," Zara said immediately. "Whatever it is, it's a newly discovered planet." "Earth," Elder Torvak continued. "Our scouts report that intelligent life exists there. But they appear primitive, violent. We need someone to make first contact, determine if they pose any threat to our trade routes. A chill ran down Zara's spine. She had heard whispers about Earth. The few scouts who had returned spoke of creatures who fought constantly among themselves, who destroyed their own environment, who seemed incapable of the harmony that defined civilized life. No diplomatic envoy has volunteered for this mission, Elder Draconis added. The risk of capture or death is considered too high. Zara's mother grabbed her arm. Absolutely not. I won't let you throw your life away on some impossible mission to a savage world. But Zara pulled away gently. She could see the path forward. Now, narrow and terrifying as it was, if I succeed, she said to the council, if I establish peaceful contact with this Earth and prove they are not a threat, will you reconsider your decision about my fitness to rule? The elders whispered among themselves. Prince Kale's smile faded. He clearly hadn't expected this turn of events. Very well, Elder Morthok finally announced. If you can successfully complete first contact with Earth and return with proof of either alliance or neutrality, we will revisit the question of succession. But understand the risks, Princess. No one who has attempted extended contact with humans has returned unchanged. Some have not returned at all. Zara nodded. I understand. As she left the crystal chamber, she could hear her mother's footsteps. Behind her, Zara, please reconsider, Queen Lirelei pleaded. There has to be another way. Mother Zara stopped and turned around. I have spent my entire life preparing to lead our people. I won't let one biological failing destroy everything. I've worked for... If I can't give them children, I'll give them something else. I'll give them Earth. 3 days later, Zara stood in the launch bay next to her small scout ship. It was sleek and fast, designed for stealth rather than comfort. She would be alone for months, possibly longer. The journey to Earth would take weeks, and who knew how long it would take to understand the humans well enough to make meaningful contact. Her mother hugged her tightly. Come back to me, she whispered. Come back safe. Zara hugged her back, breathing in the familiar scent of starflowers that her mother always wore. I will. And when I do, I'll have proven that there's more than one way to serve our kingdom. As her ship lifted off from the crystal spires of the royal city, Zara looked down at the only world she had ever known. The blue oceans and floating cities grew smaller and smaller until they were just points of light against the darkness of space. She was heading into the unknown, toward a planet full of creatures that might kill her on sight. But for the first time in years, she felt hope burning in her chest. Maybe she couldn't bear children. Maybe her body had failed her in that most basic way. But she was still a princess of Vorthok. She would find another way to fulfill her destiny. The stars ahead looked different than the ones behind, and they seemed brighter somehow, full of possibilities she had never imagined. Earth was waiting. For her, and with it, perhaps the chance to prove that her worth as a leader had nothing to do. With her ability to bear children, she just had to survive long enough to make it happen. Dr. Chen was working late in his laboratory again, just like every other night for the past 6 months. The government facility in Nevada was always quiet after midnight, with only the security guards making their rounds and the hum of computers. Keeping him company, he preferred it this way. No interruptions, no meetings about budget cuts, no colleagues asking when his research would finally produce something useful. He was studying soil samples from the latest meteorite impact site when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the building, and his computer screen immediately switched to emergency protocols. Chen rushed to the window and looked out into the desert night. A streak of silver fire was falling from the sky, moving too slowly to be a meteor but too fast to be any human aircraft he knew about. It crashed about 2 miles from the facility, sending up a cloud of dust and sand that glowed strangely in the moonlight. Within minutes, Chen could hear vehicles starting up and military personnel shouting orders. They would secure the crash, sight, set up a perimeter, and eventually call in the science team. But that would take hours. By then, if there was anything alive in that crash, it might be too late. Chen grabbed his medical kit and emergency supplies, then slipped out the back exit of the building. His Jeep was parked behind the generator building where the security cameras couldn't see it. He had used this route before when collecting samples that weren't exactly approved by his supervisors. The drive across the desert was bumpy and difficult in the darkness. Chen followed the glow on the horizon. As he got closer, he realized the light wasn't from any fire. It was coming from the crashed object itself. Pulsing gently like a heartbeat, the ship, and it was definitely a ship, was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was about the size of a small airplane, but its surface looked like liquid metal that shifted and moved even while he watched. Part of it had cracked open during the crash, and that strange light was spilling out from inside. Chen parked his jeep behind a large rock formation and approached on foot. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Every scientific instinct told him to be careful, but his curiosity was stronger than his fear as he got closer to the opening in the ship. He heard something that made him freeze. It sounded like crying, not the mechanical noise of a damaged machine, but actual sobbing. Someone was hurt inside that ship. Chen pulled out his flashlight and carefully looked through the crack. What he saw changed everything he thought he knew about life in the universe. A young woman sat crumpled against the far wall of the ship's interior. Her skin had a soft blue glow, like moonlight on water, and her hair was long and silver. She was clearly in pain, holding her left arm against her body, and tears were streaming down her face. When his flashlight beam hit her, she looked up with eyes that were like nothing Chen had ever seen. They were deep purple with flecks of gold that seemed to move like tiny stars. She said something in a language that sounded like music, but Chen could hear the fear and pain in her voice. "Hey," he said softly, the way he might talk to an injured animal. "It's okay. I want to help you." The woman, the alien woman, his mind correct, stared at him for a long moment. Then she tried to stand up and collapsed again, crying out in what was clearly pain. Chen made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Instead of calling for backup, instead of following protocol, he climbed through the opening into the ship. Up close, he could see that her left arm was definitely broken, and there was a deep cut on her forehead that was bleeding a substance that looked like liquid starlight. She was beautiful in a way that didn't seem possible, but she was also clearly terrified of him. "I'm a doctor," Chen said, pointing to himself and then to his medical kit. "Doctor, help." He repeated the words several times using hand gestures to try to communicate. The woman watched him carefully as he slowly opened his medical kit. When he pulled out bandages and antiseptic, she seemed to understand. She held out her injured arm, but Chen could see she was still scared. Working on an alien's injuries was unlike anything they had taught him in medical school. Her bone structure was similar to human, but her skin felt different, warmer, and it seemed to glow brighter when he touched it. The bleeding stopped as soon as he cleaned the wound, as if her body had healing abilities beyond anything human. As he worked, Chen talked to her in a calm, steady voice. "My name is Chen. Work at the research facility over there. I study things that fall from the sky, but I never expected to find someone like you." The woman listened to his voice, and gradually she seemed to relax. When he finished bandaging her arm, she pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zara. "Zara," Chen repeated, and she nodded. "That's a beautiful name." Over the next few hours, Chen learned that Zara's ship was too damaged to fly. The crash had destroyed most of her navigation systems and damaged her communication equipment. She was stranded on Earth, with no way to contact her people. Instead of reporting the crash, Chen made another decision that surprised even himself. He helped Zara hide the ship behind the rock formations, covering it with camouflage netting he kept in his jeep for his unauthorized collecting trips. Then he brought her back to his private laboratory. Zara was amazed by everything she saw. She studied Chen's equipment with the curiosity of a scientist, her fingers hovering over instruments as if she could understand their purpose just by looking at them. When he showed her a microscope, she looked through it and gasped in delight, saying something in her musical language that sounded like praise. "You're a scientist too, aren't you?" Chen asked, even though he knew she couldn't understand all his words yet, but Zara seemed to understand his tone. She nodded enthusiastically, then went to his whiteboard and began drawing. Incredibly detailed and precise star charts, mathematical equations, and diagrams of what looked like advanced technology. Chen stared at her work in amazement. The mathematics were beyond anything he had studied, but he could see the logic in them. This wasn't just an alien visitor. This was an alien scientist. Someone who might understand the universe in ways humans had never imagined. Over the following weeks, Chen developed a routine. He would work his regular hours at the facility, attending meetings and filing reports about ordinary research projects. But every evening, he would return to his laboratory to spend time with Zara. Teaching each other language became their first project together. Chen would point to objects and say their English names, while Zara would repeat them in her musical voice and then teach him the words in her language. They filled notebooks with vocabulary lists, grammar rules, and simple conversation practice. Zara was fascinated by human emotions. Her people, she tried to explain through drawings and gestures, didn't experience feelings the same way humans did. They were more logical, more controlled. But humans seemed to make decisions based on things like love, hope, and dreams concepts that Zara found both confusing and wonderful. "Why did you help me?" she asked one evening, after her English had improved enough for more complex conversations. Chen thought about it for a long time. "I don't know," he said finally. "It felt like the right thing to do. You were hurt and scared, and I couldn't just walk away." Zara studied his face carefully. "On my world, we would have called for the authorities. Immediately, we follow rules and procedures. But you chose kindness instead." "Is that bad?" Chen asked. "No," Zara said softly. "I think it's beautiful." As the weeks passed, Chen found himself looking forward to their evening conversations more than anything else in his life. Zara had a way of seeing the world that was completely different from his own. She would ask questions about human behavior that made him think about things he had always taken for granted. "Why do humans cry when they're happy?" she asked one night. "Why do your people glow brighter when you're excited?" Chen asked back. They would laugh together over these mysteries, two scientists from different worlds trying to understand each other's nature. Chen knew he should report Zara's presence. Every day he didn't contact his supervisors made him more of a traitor to his government and his species. But every evening with Zara made him more certain that he was doing the right thing. She wasn't dangerous. She wasn't trying to invade or conquer Earth. She was just a person who had been sent on a mission she never wanted, who had crashed on a strange world and found unexpected kindness from someone she should have feared. And if Chen was being honest with himself, she was becoming much more than just a scientific curiosity. Zara was becoming the most important person in his life. Even though she wasn't technically a person at all, but he didn't know that their secret couldn't last forever, or that the feelings growing between them would soon create something that neither of their worlds thought was possible. 3 months had passed since Zara's crash, and something was very wrong. She woke up that morning feeling dizzy and sick to her stomach, just like she had for the past week. At first, she thought it might be something she ate. Human food was still strange to her, and her body didn't always react well to it, but this felt different. Her skin, which normally glowed with a steady blue light, kept flickering like a broken lamp. Sometimes it would shine brightly, other times it would dim, until she looked almost human. She had never experienced anything like it. Dr. Chen noticed the change immediately when she arrived at his laboratory that evening. "Zara, you look pale," he said, concern filling his voice. "Are you feeling okay?" "I don't know," she admitted. Sitting down heavily in the chair he had set up for her months ago, "My body feels strange, tired all the time, and my stomach keeps making me sick." Chen frowned and pulled out his medical equipment. Over the past few months, he had learned a lot about Zara's physiology. Her body temperature was naturally higher than human. Her heart beat in a different rhythm, and her blood was that strange glowing substance that looked like liquid starlight. But he had never seen her look so unwell. "Let me run some tests," he said gently. "Maybe you picked up some kind of virus or infection?" Zara nodded and let him take blood samples and check her vital signs. Everything seemed normal according to what they had established as her baseline. Chen could see that something was definitely wrong. Her energy levels were lower than usual, and she kept putting her hand on her stomach like it was bothering her. "Maybe I'm dying," Zara said quietly. "Maybe being on Earth for so long is poisoning me somehow." "Don't say that," Chen said quickly. We'll figure this out. You're going to be fine. But privately, he was worried too. What if her body couldn't handle being away from her home planet for so long? What if the Earth's atmosphere or gravity was slowly making her sick? He had grown to care about Zara more than he ever expected, and the thought of losing her made his chest tight with fear. For the next few days, Sean ran every test he could think of. He checked her blood chemistry, scanned her organs, and compared all her readings to the data he had collected over the past months. Everything looked normal, but Zara was getting worse. She started falling asleep during their evening conversations. Her appetite disappeared completely, and she could barely keep water down. The flickering of her skin's glow became more pronounced, and sometimes Chen could swear he heard a second heartbeat when he listened to her chest. That's impossible, he muttered to himself one night, listening to her heart through his stethoscope for the 100th time. But there it was again, a faint, rapid beating that didn't match her normal heart rhythm. Chen sat back in his chair, his mind racing. A second heartbeat could mean only one thing, but that was completely impossible. Humans and aliens couldn't. They weren't compatible that way. It went against everything science knew about biology and reproduction. But the evidence was right. There in front of him. Zara, he said carefully, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. She looked at him with those beautiful purple eyes, now dimmed with fatigue. What is it? Is there any possibility, any chance at all, that you could be pregnant? Zara stared at him for a long moment, then started laughing. But it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of bitter sound someone makes when they hear something absurd. Chen, I told you about my problem back home. I can't have children. My own people's doctors, the most advanced medical experts in our galaxy, declared me unable to bear offspring. How could I possibly be pregnant with a human child? But what if they were wrong? Chen pressed. What if the problem wasn't that you couldn't get pregnant, but that you couldn't get pregnant with your own species? Zara stopped laughing. Her face went very still and serious. That's not how biology works. Maybe it's not how your biology works, Chen said. But we're dealing with something completely new here. 2 different species, 2 different evolutionary paths. What if the combination created something that neither of our worlds expected? Chen pulled out his portable ultrasound machine, something he had borrowed from the medical wing weeks ago to study Zara's internal structure. Let me take a look, he said. Just to be sure. Zara lay back on the examination table, her hands shaking slightly. Chen applied the gel and moved the ultrasound probe across her abdomen, both of them staring at the small screen. For a moment, there was nothing but the usual shadows and shapes of her internal organs. Then Chen moved the probe slightly to the left, and they both gasped. There, clear as day on the screen, was a tiny figure. It was small, barely formed, but unmistakably there. And it was moving, its little heart beating rapidly in the rhythm Chen had been hearing. Oh, my stars, Zara, whispered, using one of her people's expressions. How is this possible? Chen stared at the screen, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. I don't know, he said honestly. According to everything we know about genetics and reproduction, this should be impossible. But there's your baby. Zara started crying, and Chen wasn't sure if they were tears of joy or terror. Maybe both. What are we going to do? She asked. If I go back to my world pregnant with a human child, they'll think I've lost my mind. And if I stay here, ... If you stay here, the government will want to study you and the baby, Chen finished. They'll treat you like test subjects instead of people. They sat in silence for a long time, both staring at the ultrasound image that proved something incredible was happening. Chen printed several copies of the scan, as if having physical proof would help them figure out what to do next. Chen, Zara said finally, there's something else you need to know.
Oh.
My people will be looking for me soon. I was supposed to establish contact and report back within 6 months. It's been 3 already. Chen felt his stomach drop. What happens when they come looking? They'll send a search team, probably led by my brother, Prince Kale. He's been waiting for any excuse to prove that I'm not fit to rule our kingdom. Zara put her hand on her still flat stomach. If he finds me like this, ... he'll use it against you, Chen realized. Worse than that, he'll claim I've been corrupted by human influence. That I've betrayed our people by being intimate with an alien? Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. They might decide that both the baby and I are a threat to our species' purity. Chen reached out and took her hand. Her skin was warm and still had that faint glow, even in her weakened state. We'll figure this out, he said. There has to be a way to protect both of you. But what if there isn't? Zara asked. What if loving you was the biggest mistake I could have made? Don't say that, Chen said firmly. What's happening between us? What's growing inside? It's not a mistake. It's a miracle. The first time two species from different worlds have created new life together. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something wonderful. Zara squeezed his hand. You really believe that? I believe that this baby is proof that love can exist anywhere in the universe, Chen said. And I believe that anyone who can't see how amazing this is doesn't deserve to make decisions about your life. Over the next few weeks, Zara's condition improved as they learned to manage her unique pregnancy symptoms. But their time was running out. Chen's equipment had started detecting unusual energy signatures in Earth's upper atmosphere, signs that alien ships were approaching. They're coming, Zara said one evening, looking out at the desert stars. I can feel it. My people are getting closer. Chen wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his hands on her stomach where their child was growing. Whatever happens, he said, we face it together. All three of us. Zara leaned back against him, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful. But they both knew that their quiet time was almost over. Soon, they would have to tell two different worlds about the impossible child they had created together, and neither of them knew if those worlds were ready to accept such a miracle. The first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning, just as people were heading to work and school. There were 7 of them, gleaming silver against the blue sky, moving in perfect formation across major cities around the world. Within hours, every news channel on the planet was showing the same impossible footage. Chen was in his laboratory when the emergency. Alarms started blaring throughout the government facility. He looked at Zara, who was sitting quietly in the corner, her hand resting on her no-visible belly. 4 months pregnant, she could no longer hide the changes in her body. They're here, she said simply, her purple eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sadness. My brother has come looking for me. How do you know it's him? Chen asked, though he already suspected the answer. Because those are royal battle cruisers, Zara explained, pointing at the images on Chen's computer screen. Only Prince Kale would bring that much firepower to what should be a simple rescue mission. He's not just looking for me, he's planning to make a statement. Chen's supervisor, Director Mills, burst into the laboratory without knocking. Chen, we need you in the main briefing room now. These ships are using technology we've never seen before, and the president wants our best scientists too. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Zara. For a long moment, 3 of them just stared at each other. Director Mills looked like he was trying to process what he was seeing. Zara's blue glowing skin and silver hair made it obvious she wasn't human, and her pregnant condition made the situation even more complicated. Chen, the director said. Slowly, would you care to explain why there's an alien in our classified research facility? We don't have time for long stories, Director Mills snapped. Those ships up there could start attacking at any moment, and you've been hiding an alien in our own building? Not dangerous, Chen said firmly. Her name is Zara, and she's been working with me to understand the differences between our species. She's actually a princess from the planet that sent those ships. Director Mills stared at Zara with new interest. A princess? Then she could be valuable for negotiations. I'm not a bargaining chip, Zara said, speaking for the first time. Her English was clear and confident after months of practice with Chen. The director's eyebrows shot up. She speaks our language. She's incredibly intelligent, Chen said. She could help us establish peaceful contact with her people. But as they spoke, Chen's computer chimed with an incoming message from the alien ships. The transmission was in Zara's musical language, but the tone was clearly hostile. Zara listened to the message, her face growing pale. Oh no, she whispered. This is very bad. What are they saying? Chen asked. Prince Kale is demanding that Earth's governments surrender me immediately, or he will consider this planet hostile to our kingdom, Zara translated. It's giving your leaders 12 hours to respond. Director Mills was already on his radio, calling for security teams and evacuation procedures. But Chen focused on Zara, who looked like she was about to collapse. There's more, she said quietly. Kale is broadcasting to our homeworld right now. He's telling everyone that I've been captured by primitive aliens who have corrupted me with their savage ways. He's saying that I've betrayed our people and our bloodline. But that's not true, Chen protested. It doesn't matter, Zara said, tears starting to form in her eyes. By the time I could return home to tell my side of the story, Kale will have convinced the High Council that I'm no longer fit to rule. He's been planning this for years, waiting for any excuse to take the throne from me. Within hours, the secret of Zara's presence on Earth was no longer secret. Government officials from around the world were demanding to know everything about the alien princess who had been hiding in a Nevada research facility. Some wanted to protect her as a diplomatic asset. Others wanted to hand her over to the alien ships to avoid a potential war. But the biggest shock came when the medical team examined Zara and discovered her pregnancy. The news spread through the facility like wildfire, and within a day, it had reached the highest levels of world governments. A hybrid baby, President Morrison said during an emergency video conference that Chen was forced to attend. An alien-human hybrid. Do you understand what this means, Dr. Chen? Yes, sir, Chen replied. It means that our species are more compatible than anyone thought possible. It's proof that we can coexist, maybe even build a future together. Or it's proof that aliens are trying to infiltrate our species, Senator Blake interrupted. From his location in Washington, how do we know this isn't some kind of biological weapon designed to weaken humanity? Because I know Zara, Chen said, his voice rising with frustration. I've spent months with her. She's not a weapon or a spy. She's a person who was sent here against her will, who crashed and needed help. Everything that happened between us was genuine? Everything that happened between you? General Hayes asked sharply. Are you admitting to a personal relationship with an alien entity? Chen looked directly into the camera. I'm admitting that I fell in love with someone who happened to be from another world. And yes, we're having a child together. The conference room erupted in arguments. Some officials called Chen a traitor to his own species. Others insisted that the baby could be humanity's greatest discovery or its greatest threat. But through it all, Chen could only think about Zara, who was being held in a secure medical facility while doctors ran endless tests on her and their unborn child. Meanwhile, in space above Earth, Prince Kale was preparing his own plan. He had sent messages back to the Royal Council on Vorthok, describing how his sister had been seduced and corrupted by the savage humans. He painted a picture of Zara as a victim who needed to be rescued, while also suggesting that she was no longer pure enough to rule their kingdom. The humans have contaminated her bloodline, he reported to the council. She carries a hybrid offspring that threatens the genetic integrity of our royal family. Queen Lirile, Zara's mother, listened to these reports with growing alarm. She knew her son well enough to recognize his ambition behind his words of concern. I request permission to go to Earth myself, the Queen announced during an emergency council session. I want to see my daughter and hear her side of this story before we make any irreversible decisions. Absolutely not, Elder Morthok declared. We cannot risk the Queen's safety on that primitive world. Prince Kale's assessment of the situation is sufficient. Queen Lirile was already making her own plans. She had ruled alongside Zara's father for many years before his death, and she knew how to be decisive when her family was threatened. Back on Earth, Zara was trying to convince the world's leaders that her baby could be a bridge between their peoples rather than a threat. This child carries the best of both our species, she explained during a televised interview. The intelligence and curiosity of humans, combined with the technological knowledge of my people, imagine what we could accomplish together. But not everyone was convinced. Protesters gathered outside government buildings demanding that the alien infiltrator be sent back to space. Calling Zara and her baby symbols of a new age of interplanetary cooperation, Chen was allowed to visit Zara once a day, under heavy guard. During one of these visits, she shared troubling news. "I've been sensing something through my connection to the baby," she said, placing Chen's hand on her belly. "The child has abilities that neither of our species has seen before. She can somehow reach across the mental barriers between humans and my people." Chen asked, smiling despite their dangerous situation. "Yes, it's a girl," Zara confirmed. "And Chen, she's already trying to communicate. Sometimes I can feel her thoughts, and they're not like mine or yours. There's something entirely new." As if responding to their conversation, the baby moved inside Zara's womb, and for just a moment, Chen felt something impossible. A brief touch of consciousness that wasn't quite human and wasn't quite alien, but something wonderful and unique. "She's going to change everything," Zara whispered. "We can keep her safe long enough for the world to meet her." But time was running out. Prince Kale's ships were moving into attack positions. World governments were deadlocked on what to do. And somewhere in space, Queen Lirelei was racing toward Earth with her own small fleet, hoping to reach her daughter. Before it was too late, the fate of 3 species, human, alien, and the new hybrid life growing between them hung in the balance. And the only thing everyone could agree on was that nothing would ever be the same again. The abandoned observatory in the mountains of Colorado had been closed for 20 years. But tonight it was the most important place on Earth. Dr. Chen drove through the winding mountain roads in complete darkness, following a route that Dr. Rodriguez from the Brazilian science team had mapped out weeks earlier. In the passenger seat, Zara held her belly as another contraction hit. "We're almost there," Chen said, trying to keep his voice calm even though his hands were shaking on the steering wheel. "Just hold on a little longer." Behind them, 3 other vehicles followed through the night. Each car carried scientists and diplomats who had secretly joined what they called the Bridge Project people from both worlds, who believed that Zara's baby represented hope rather than danger. The past week had been a nightmare of narrow escapes and desperate planning. When it became clear that both Earth's governments and Prince Kale wanted to control Zara and her child, a small group of rebels had formed. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been studying alien technology for months, helped them steal Zara from the government facility. Captain Weber, a military officer who had grown disgusted with his superior's plans to use the baby as a weapon, provided transportation and security. Most surprisingly, they had received help from space. Queen Lirelei had arrived at Earth with a small fleet of her most trusted allies. But instead of demanding her daughter's return, she had sent a secret message asking to meet with the rebels. "I know my daughter," the Queen had said during their hidden video conference. "If she chose to stay on your world and bear a human child, she had good reasons. I want to hear those reasons before anyone makes decisions about her future." Now, as they reached the old observatory, Chen could see lights inside the building. The Queen had arrived first, along with 2 of her advisors and a small medical team. She had risked everything to come to Earth personally. Defying the Royal Council's orders to stay away from the contaminated planet, Zara's labor had started 6 hours earlier, just as Prince Kale's ships had begun moving into attack formation above Earth's major cities. The timing couldn't have been worse. But their baby seemed determined to be born right in the middle of the crisis that would determine her fate. Zara gasped as another contraction hit. I can feel her thoughts getting stronger. Chen helped Zara out of the car and toward the observatory entrance. "What kind of thoughts?" "She's trying to reach out," Zara said, wonder mixing with pain in her voice. "Not just to me, but to everyone. I think she can sense the conflict above us, and she's trying to communicate." Inside the observatory, Queen Lirelei waited with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She hadn't seen her daughter in 8 months, and the circumstances of their reunion were unlike anything in royal history. When Zara walked through the door, supported by Chen, the Queen's breath caught in her throat. "My daughter," she whispered. Stepping forward with tears in her eyes, "You look... different," Zara asked with a tired smile. "That's what happens when you fall in love with someone from another world." Lirelei looked at Chen with curious eyes. "So you are the human Who has captured my daughter's heart? I'm the human who fell in love with the most amazing woman in the universe, Chen replied. And I promise you, Your Majesty, everything that happened between us was based on genuine feelings, not politics or scheming. Ash! The queen studied Chen's face for a long moment, then smiled. I can see why Zara chose you. You have honest eyes. Another contraction hit Zara, stronger this time, and Dr. Rodriguez hurried forward with medical equipment they had managed to gather from various sources. We need to get her to the medical area we set up upstairs, she said. This baby is coming soon. As they helped Zara up the stairs to the improvised delivery room, something extraordinary began happening outside. People all over Earth and, apparently on the alien ships above, started reporting strange sensations. It was as if a voice was trying to speak to them. Not through words, but through emotions and images. In the skies above, Prince Kale felt it too. He was preparing to send an ultimatum to Earth's leaders when a wave of pure, innocent thought touched his mind. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, the mental touch of a being that was both alien and familiar, both human and Vorthakian. What is this? He demanded of his communications officer. Sir, we're detecting unusual psychic emanations from the planet's surface, the officer reported. It's unlike any communication method we know. Meanwhile, in government bunkers around the world, Earth's leaders were experiencing the same phenomenon. President Morrison was in the middle of a strategy meeting, and he suddenly felt a profound sense of peace and curiosity that wasn't his own. Does anyone else feel that? He asked his advisors, who were all looking around in confusion. In the observatory, Zara's labor was progressing rapidly, but instead of the usual pain and difficulty, she seemed to be glowing brighter than ever. Before, her skin radiated soft blue light that filled the entire room with warmth and calm. The baby is crowning, Dr. Rodriguez announced. Just a few more pushes, Zara. Chen held Zara's hand, amazed by what he was witnessing. As their daughter prepared to enter the world, he could feel her presence like a gentle touch in his mind. She was reaching out to him, to Zara, to Queen Lirelei, and somehow to everyone else on Earth and in the ships above. She's trying to introduce herself, Zara said between contractions, tears of joy streaming down her face. She wants everyone to know that she comes in peace. With a final push, their daughter was born. Dr. Rodriguez caught the tiny baby, who immediately opened her eyes, and looked around with an awareness that seemed impossible for a newborn. Her skin shifted between the blue glow of her mother's people and the warm pink tones of humanity. Her eyes were a unique shade of green that seemed to contain flecks of starlight. She's perfect, Chen whispered, hardly able to believe that this tiny miracle was his daughter. Queen Lirelei approached slowly, her own eyes filled with tears. May I? She asked, and Zara nodded. When the queen held her granddaughter for the first time, the baby looked up at her with those impossible eyes and smiled. In that moment, Queen Lirelei felt a communication clearer than any words, a message of love, acceptance, and hope for the future around the world. The psychic emanations from the baby's birth had created an unprecedented effect. Humans and Vorthakians alike were experiencing a brief but powerful connection to each other's consciousness. For the first time, they could truly understand what the other species was thinking and feeling. Prince Kale, still in his command ship, felt the touch of his niece's mind and was overwhelmed by emotions he had never experienced. The baby's thoughts carried no judgment, no political agenda, only pure love and a desire for her family to be united and safe. Stand down all weapons, he ordered his fleet, his voice shaking. Prepare for peaceful negotiations. Back in the observatory, Chen and Zara were experiencing their first moments as parents when Queen Lirelei made an announcement that would change everything. I hereby declare, she said formally, that Princess Zara has never been infertile. She was simply destined for a greater purpose than anyone understood. By bringing forth this bridge between our peoples, she has proven her fitness to rule beyond any doubt. But Mother Zara protested gently, I don't want to rule anymore. I want to stay here with Chen and raise our daughter. I want to help our peoples learn to understand each other. Queen Lirelei smiled. Then you will rule from here, as Earth's first Vorthakian ambassador. And this little one, she looked down at the baby in her arms, will grow up to be the bridge. between stars that our universe has been waiting for. Over the following months, everything changed. Prince Kale, humbled by his experience with his niece's mental touch, worked with Earth's leaders to establish the first interplanetary peace treaties. The baby, who they named Luna for her ability to reflect light from both worlds, became a symbol of hope and cooperation. Chen and Zara married in a ceremony that was broadcast to both worlds, showing that love could truly transcend any barrier. They established the Institute for Interspecies Understanding, where scientists from both planets worked together to explore the mysteries of the universe. Luna grew up bilingual in both English and her mother's musical language. But more importantly, she grew up as a natural translator between human and Vorthakian minds. Her unique abilities helped solve countless misunderstandings and conflicts between the two species. Years later, as Chen watched his 5-year-old daughter playing with children from both worlds in their garden on Earth, he reflected on how much their lives had changed. Zara had never been infertile. She had simply been waiting for the right partner to help her create something entirely new. Their love story had become legend on both worlds, proof that the universe was far more connected than anyone had imagined. And their daughter, the impossible child who should never have existed, had become the living symbol of a new age, where the stars were no longer barriers, but bridges waiting to be crossed.